This handbag being held by King Gilgamesh is one of many. This handbag seems to be in almost every ancient civilization we look at, from Göbekli Tepe in Turkey 11,000 years ago to the Olmecs of Mesoamerica just 2,400 years ago. What is this object? Is it a bag, a purse, or a bucket? And most importantly, what does it represent? There are quite a few theories that I've run into over the course of this week while I was researching this topic. I'm going to talk about those first, and then we're going to get into my own theory. The most common theory that I saw was the pollen bucket theory. This also seems to be the theory that's most accepted by scholars. Here in New York City, the Brooklyn Museum actually has some Sumerian carvings and tablets and texts and stuff. And on their website, they support the theory of the pollen bucket. The idea is that the individual would gather water that was mixed with pollen and use the pine cone to sprinkle the water on people and plants. It was seen as a kind of holy water for purification and ritual purposes. Honestly, this is a pretty solid theory. I'm not gonna lie. It looks like that's exactly what they're doing in some of these images, but there's a few things wrong. The first thing is the pervasive nature of this image. The image carries across tons of civilizations, even though they are in some cases thousands of years apart and thousands of miles apart. This bucket is even seen at the earliest human archaeological site, Göbekli Tepe. This theory would have to argue that all these civilizations have a common starting point, that all civilizations with this bag ultimately began at Göbekli Tepe. The weakness in this theory is that it doesn't match the consensus view that humans had already colonized most of the Earth around 21,000 years ago. Graham Hancock's theory, which some of you are probably familiar with, offers a appealing and pretty solid alternative, that there was an ancient civilization that went around spreading technology, and the bag had something to do with it. So to sum that up, I don't think that the pollen bucket theory coincides with the pervasive nature of the bucket in general, especially since we lose the pine cone. All these other cultures don't have the pine cone but carry that same exact bag. And so it seems to me like the bag in these other cultures must not have anything to do with the pine cone. The bag must be a standalone thing. Ultimately, the bag is what was preserved, not the pine cone. So we should be focusing on the bag rather than the pine cone. That's my perspective here. So theory number 2 is extremely boring. It was presented by this archaeologist. I won't spend a ton of time on it. It's the idea that the bag is just that. It's a bag. The idea is that bags were such an important part of culture that everybody had bags, that even the gods that people created also carried bags, whether it was for decorative purposes or for carrying things. I have 2 issues with this. First, if it's such commonplace to have a bag, then why immortalize the bag by creating the carvings of gods holding the bag? Like, they could be holding anything else. If a bag is just this boring part of human culture, why make it so attached to the gods? Another thing is that these bags are clearly being treated differently throughout certain cultures. They're not really being treated just as a bag. My theory takes a completely different angle. It's very different than the other ones. The main point is when we see these carvings, when we see these sculptures and they're holding these bags, we have to realize and accept the fact that there's a narrative behind that. Whether it's the pyramids, whether it's Göbekli Tepe, whether it's sculptures and carvings, they're not just standalone objects. So the basis of my theory here is that we can actually look toward the narrative, look at the myth, in order to deduce what the meaning of the bag is. So the Epic of Gilgamesh is the earliest myth that we have. It's related to ancient Sumer, and it has a bag, and the bag plays an extremely important role in the narrative. The major question here, obviously, is what is contained in the bag. In the story of Gilgamesh, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh and Enkidu go on an adventure to kill the spirit of the forest, who is Humbaba. After fighting Humbaba, they chop off his head and put it in a bag. And the bag is important because that's how they transport Humbaba's head back to the king, back to culture, back to their civilization. This doesn't really mean anything from the surface level, that it contains Humbaba's head. Like, cool, okay, so that's it. That's why the bag is so important. That doesn't completely explain what we're talking about. The issue and what we have to consider is, what does Humbaba's head represent? And so I talked about this in a previous video, that Gilgamesh is a representation of the conscious mind, of the masculine ego, and it's a story. Ultimately, the epic is a story of the emergence of consciousness. And so through this lens, it completely changes the meaning of these characters and the narrative that unfolds in the epic. Enkidu is not just a weird half animal, half human. He is representative of the unconscious. And killing Humbaba, the primitive creature or spirit of the forest, is a representation of killing this old mode of thinking, which is unconscious. And so to sum that up, Humbaba represents the unconscious mind, the primitive unconscious mind. He represents humanity when the unconscious mind was our primary mode of understanding the world. So what does it mean to cut off the head of the unconscious mind and put it into a box or a bag. To me, it represents a few things. One, it represents the death of that old mode of thinking. We are no longer just unconscious beings. We have a conscious ego, and that's something that we have to live with. But at the same time, we can't just kill Humbaba and leave him in the forest. He comes with us everywhere we go. We still have a relationship to Humbaba, but one that is much more controlled. Rather than Humbaba being this creature that roams around the forest and is like this wild animal, basically, he's contained within the bag. The last question we have to answer is, why is it everywhere? Why do we see it in so many different ancient civilizations? The answer, I think, is somewhat simple. It's the idea that just like flood narratives and creation myths, this idea of containing the unconscious mind is a common mythological motif that carries out throughout human generations and throughout human civilizations. And now I know this theory is not perfect. I don't claim that it is. There's a lot of myth that's missing. For example, I tried to read some of the Olmec myths to try and get an idea of what this bag represented, but I couldn't find any good translations, and the ones that I could find were just not refined to the point where they were really accurate. The main point of this video really is to consider the myth behind these representations that we see. Yes, we see the pyramids. Yes, we see Göbekli Tepe. Yes, we see this weird bag everywhere. But there's more to it than just the carving, just the structure. We have to go back and look at the narrative, look at what culture this has emerged within. I hope this offers a new viewpoint on all of this stuff, and I want to know what you guys think down below. Have you heard of handbags, being important in certain cultures and playing a role in their myth, in their narratives? Because I would love to hear more about it. What theory do you like best? Is it a pollen bucket? Is it just a regular bag that people carry around? Or is it a mythological symbol that represents the control of the unconscious mind? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll see you on the next video.